in the last few weeks have just come on stronger and stronger and stronger.
But to tie it up and to take the game out of any doubt, Thompson sends Teasdale on his way. That made it 20-10. And then Teasdale, 4 minutes later, couldn't believe himself when McCabe sent him through for this one, the second try, to make the full-time score 25 points to 10. Well, let's go to the 16th minute of the game. St George are leading 7 points to 5, and Gosha awarded this no try, or made this ruling a no try. I want you to watch it closely. The man to watch is Morris. Is the pass to him forward. We'll put the ring of truth on it. Now Gosha immediately rules this pass forward. Look at the line. Now that line that we've got there, the white line, is parallel to the line on the field, which gives you an idea that they are in line with each other. And if it indeed it was a forward pass, it was a hairline decision. Now that is with St George leading 17-5 16 minutes into the match, that would have given them
under the post too.
Under the post, that would have been a 12 points to 5 lead. Now I know there's a lot of intangibles in there, but that I think is very telling.
I thought the pass was good. I thought it should have been a try.
I've certainly seen a lot worse pass ruled okay than that.
Yeah, but it's all right for you guys to sit here and say that that line is defined whether or not the ball was passed forward. The angle that John Gosha was in that situation, and he was very direct with his penalty. He does not hesitate with this, and I think it was marginally forward as far as I'm concerned. If I was in that position, I would have ruled it forward.
But he's behind the play.
Well, you've been doing that for years, so that doesn't worry me.
But that's fair game. Look, let us get the ground rules for our discussions on this panel very clear, Greg. As far as I'm concerned, it is very easy for me to sit here with the help of $1 million worth of video equipment and criticise a referee. That's easy. That's a cheap shot, as Jack Gibson was your good friend Jack Gibson. He said it's a cheap shot. It is.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. But at the same time, it's our job to point these things out, even if the referee is shot down in the process.
In case there's another angle. I mean, even I know it's $1 million, a lot of equipment and all that sort of thing, but the view that we're getting from here appears as though it's about 20 feet away, whereas in fact it's about 100 yards away. Therefore, you cannot rule that what you see on the camera is exactly right. Now, it's exaggerated.
Doesn't alter the fact that it's forward, Frank. It doesn't alter the fact whether it's forward or not. If it's 100 metres away or 5 metres away.
The whole angle of it. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the referee was in a good position to judge, and I will not argue the point with him on a matter of opinion.
And I'll back you up on that.
On fact. I'll argue with referees, and I'll argue with you on fact.
And I'll argue back with you if I think I'm right too.
That's right, but not on opinion. Your opinion's as good as mine. If you're in a better position to see it than I am, I'll concede.
Right, that's fair enough, Frank. Okay. Now, I'd like to remind everyone it was St Patrick's Day during the week, and Frank has just said very clearly he will argue when he knows the facts prove him wrong. Now, that is a concise summary of what you just said.
Well, that's a bit of Irish, because I didn't say that at all. I said I'll argue on when it's a matter of fact, but I will not argue and it's a matter of opinion.
I understand that. Now, we go to the 19th minute of the match, and the point I want to illustrate here is that the pot sometimes calls the kettle black. Now, look at this carefully, and you'll see an incident in which Reddy put his hand right across the mouth of Boyd. Now, you know, I'm not going to comment on that, but what I think needs to be pointed here is the way this player talks to the referee. Now, I don't want to know what he says.
Have his palm read.
No, he's saying, look, what is my future, John? See the tea leaves there? Now, I think it's wrong that players should scream at referees like that. What do you think, Greg?
And he's lucky that Kreutz didn't go in there for a try
that's
too,
right,
because
that's where he was lucky,
trouble.
because he was appealing to referee Gosha, wasn't looking at Match Krilich, and just for that last split second, he got back in and made the tackle.
Well, the other thing is, if Reddy had so much to say, why wasn't he asked to make a statement after the match to the referee, quoting exactly the words he said on the field? Have a look at it again. You'll see he really was. He's saying, you know, what does the future hold for me? Look,
is he saying is that 4 or 5 tackles, Case? Is that what
I think he won.
John Gosha's always been one to have the tackle count right, Ron.
Yes, and he's signalling 5 tackles, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is that it?
That must be.
That must have been it, yeah. OK, we'll go on to the next one. It's the 24-minute mark in the first half, and it was a ruling that, well, really confused a few people, and if you watch closely, you'll see why. Here it is. Now, the ball travels forward, but does not hit the ground. Picked up by Eadie.
Still a knock on, though.
It didn't hit the ground, Frank.
Doesn't matter.
The ball was propelled forward. Now, it is propelled forward from Jansen. Beattie goes up for it and goes down and claims the try. But, and I'll come to the panel now, what do you think?
I think it should have been a try. I think that by knocking the ball forward, it was negated by Graham Eadie catching the ball cleanly, which means play on.
But that's the operative. Does he catch it cleanly? Now,
he hasn't even got it there now.
Has he got to catch it cleanly, Greg?
Yes,
or
he
is
must.
He just got to play at the ball?
That's the only reason the referee would allow that advantage situation, a definite advantage. But does he catch it cleanly? And that doesn't.
I think earlier before he had the
does.
head-on shot from behind, I think Graham Eadie got the ball quite cleanly. I think it should have been a try. I think they were very unlucky, St George. They lost 2 tries.
Let me say this. You wouldn't argue with anyone, apparently, but just let me say this.
Only you.
Is it possible for St George to have scored a try there, propelling the ball forward as they did on 2 occasions, and because the ball didn't touch the ground, they've still propelled the ball forward? Could they score a try from
Only
it?
if the same man who propels the ball forward regains possession. If he propels the ball forward and a man comes from an onside position and catches it, that is still a knock-on.
Well, that was a knock-on. In that case, because
was
the
a knock-on,
same
that's right.
That's what we're saying, and the ruling was
person
correct.
didn't gather it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
right.
Okay, fair enough. Well, there it is. Because there's a lot of people left the ground yesterday. If you watch, this is what happens. Wondering about this, because this again was a vital stage of the match.
Yes, it was.
See, neither of them had the ball then. Eadie didn't catch it cleanly. And they both juggled it up, but it went behind Jansen, so he didn't knock on the second time, only the first time.
And that perhaps the most contentious part of the whole match, the try scored by Krilic when Gosha seemed to, well, be running shepherd for him. Watch it.
Yeah, I don't think he did, Case.
No, I'm just trying to promote the scene, that's all. I'm not just...
In case I think we should be more critical of the St George defence there rather than
Well,
any action of the referee.
Gosha agrees with you. He's going into a defensive position.
Well, there's only one player he could have impeded, and that's Reddy, and I don't think Reddy would have been there anyway.
Actually, Buckley, I think the lock coming across there, I think Gosha possibly got in his way, obscured.
And our man Ray Chesterton is there, and he talks first of all to Ray Ritchie, the coach of Manly.
Another gutsy win, Ray, but you're running out of players.
It was a gutsy win. We had to use the 4 reserves today, but the 4 reserves were more than adequate. And, I'm very thankful for the depth that we have in this club.
How do the injuries finish up?
We've got our problems, but I think with a bit of luck they'll all be okay. Ray Brown, we thought that Ray had a suspected broken arm, but the club doctors have assured us that that's not the case, and it's only ligaments. So we're thankful for that. Jeff Gerard's got Jeff has a sprained ankle, and possibly he's a big concern.
What about halfbacks? You've got Johnny Gibbs on crutches already, and Chisholm was concussed today.
He was concussed. He took a couple of bad knocks, and he had the flu. He played with influenza. 5 of the players had influenza today, but it never interfered with their game, and Rick should be okay for next week.
How did you get that concussion, Rick?
Well, I remember getting the first one, just taking the ball up and then getting hit in a tackle. And then about 2 or 3 minutes later, the same thing's happening. I've taken the ball up again and got hit in a tackle, and the recovery rate just never came good. I just couldn't come good.
What about headaches now?
Oh, yeah, I've got a pretty good headache right now. It'll be with me all night, I'd say.
Would you consider switching Alan Thompson to half next week if Chisholm is ill?
No, Chisholm will be okay. He will be okay.
Does St George play exactly the way you thought they would?
We knew they'd be very, very hard to beat. These early games are so essential. And I thought it'd be the hardest game of the round, and it was. It worked out that way. As I say, I have the greatest respect for St George, and I'm glad it's behind us.
Graham, the first try of the season.
Yeah, it was good to get over, Ray.
How did it come about?
I was just backing up mainly. Mark Broadhurst, I think it was, made the sort of half break over to Brucey Walker, and I just backed Goldie up.
For Graham Eadie, last year wasn't all that successful. Are you looking for an improvement this year?
Yeah, well, last year was a bit of a write-off, Ray, with knee injury, but with the rest during the off-season, it's 100% now, and I'm looking forward to a full year of football.
How much influence, Pat, did Harry Barth have on your career?
Well, Harry didn't give me much of a go until up to halfway through last season. I was sort of first running first grade at that stage, and I was feeling my way at first. And since I've been up here with Roy, he's been a great influence on me. He spends a lot of time with his players, and I've got a lot of faith in him as a coach anyway.
You were hitting the line very hard and trying to get the ball away, Pat.
Well, that was part of Roy's plan. It's what he wanted me to do. We practiced it at training, and Manly were just a little bit better in defence today.
How tough were Manly out there today?
Oh, they played well. It was anyone's game up until the last 15 minutes, and they just got away from us.
All right, let's ask the panel. What did you think of Manly's performance, first of all?
I thought Manly played pretty well. I think that they're justifiably unbeaten at this stage. Although they may have wilted a little late in the match, I thought that they played pretty well.
Well, no, they held it when
That's right.
when I thought they were on toast, they came back, which is a great performance.
Sure.
St George, Frank.
I thought St George played well, but I agree Manly was the better side, and their defence, their improved defence has amazed me. I think they're going to be a tough nut to crack, and I think St George will come good too.
When you remember, Frank, they got Randall to come back.
That's right.
You know, that's going to make them a great outfit midway through. And Randall will be fresh late in the season because he's had a late start. I know that you shouldn't benefit from a suspension, but really it's going to be a big plus for them, Randall being fresh late in the year instead of carrying injuries. How did you think of St George, Greg?
Well, I thought they were going to get on top in the second half. I really did. There was a time there where Manly lapsed into a little bit of complacency, or they appeared to me, but all of a sudden they got that new lease of life and come on very strong.
On the 10th minute to the 30th minute, I really felt St George were going to click and, you know, pick up the 7 points.
I don't think the loss was as bad as you might think for St George. I think those 2 tries were crucial, but there are a few problems with the forwards. But geez, that Jarvis is a good player, Case.
Yes.
Very strong player. I think it's not as bad as you think about St George.
Well, no, but you've got to live in a factual world, even if Frank wants to.
Well, if
argue
those
an
2
opinion.
tries have been given, but even so Manly were by far the better side and deserved to win.
Yeah, but Roy Masters has got a huge problem. He's lost 3 in a row now, and St George just doesn't exist that way.
That's very true. There might be a bit of wrist slashing out at Cogra, but look at this. St George in the next 3 weeks play Canberra, Newtown and Illawarra. Now, there's 3 wins for sure.
Oh, wait a minute. No,
haven't
right
won
off
them yet.
Newtown. Don't you write off
Oh,
Newtown.
come on, Frank.
Don't you
One
worry
win.
about that.
They only beat North Sydney.
That's all right. It's the way they beat them. And with the addition of those 4 players, those 4 new players, they're a different side altogether. Now, I did a few of the early games of Newtown, and I tell you what, the difference last Friday night and those early games is absolutely remarkable.
Just harking back to St George, the pressure must be building up out there because Roy Masters, for the first time that I recall, even going back to all those years with Wests, didn't hang around last night for interviews by the media. He was first out of the dressing room. I don't know why, perhaps he had some personal commitments, but it's not a good sign when the coach doesn't hang around to be interviewed. And there's a feeling of the world's against us out at St George in the dressing room, which is usually very cordial. It harks back to those old West days when it was all the world's out to get us.
I just can't imagine St George League's club with an asbestos roof. After this commercial break, we'll be back to look at today's matches, and then Maurice will talk to one of the hottest prospects in rugby league.